How did you come across this thing of being neurodiverse?
Good question. I came across it through my daughter, who was struggling transitioning to secondary school, and we were working out there was some kind of neurodiversity going on. She wasn't succeeding the way we would have expected her to, having excelled kind of at primary school and suddenly couldn't cope with what was going on. And so we really explored that and decided that Daisy had some features of ADHD with the executive function. And as I researched that on her behalf, discovered that actually it's very genetic.
So was that like a kind of eureka moment? Was that like a kind of like, oh, this is me?
Yeah, I think so, very much so. And realising why I'd felt like I didn't fit, either through school or then through the world of work and the ministry. It was an explanation of, for example, when I was doing my GCSEs, I was studied by my science teacher as a case study of the able underachiever in his master's degree. And so he was exploring different ways in which to try and harness my kind of intelligence rather than me disrupting the whole class, which was a very positive experience for him and me. And I didn't really have any way to kind of process or do anything with that at the time, but then latterly, now I understand what is going on, suddenly it made sense of all of that, and how then through my ministry, it felt like nobody was like me. And at theological college, which was quite a traditional place, it just felt like, why is nobody else making these patterns and connections? Why is everyone just focused on doing the same thing we've done for centuries and feeling like that's going to fix things?
One researcher said that to have ADHD in this environment is like being a hunter in a world of farmers.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with farmers, we need farmers, but you're wired differently, it's a different thing. And that can have, depending on all sorts of things, it can have sort of mental health implications. Has that been your experience? Where have you gone with that feeling of feeling different?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to a degree I've ended up in the church, well, partly because God called me to do ministry, but it's been a very convenient way for me to be my own boss and be judged on outputs and outcomes, not just on giving the same inputs every time as the farmer might. So that's been really helpful for me. But on the way to that, certainly felt like I needed a fix the way that other people didn't. And so I've struggled with sitting in long meetings, which are a bit boring, without having my device in front of me, and I'll be doing work at the same time as concentrating on what's going on. It's really helpful. And kind of aware that there are other professions where it fits better with my neurodiversity. So if I were a Royal Marine, actually I'd be surrounded by people who are ADHD because it fits really well. If I was a paramedic, it would fit really well with what I'm doing. In ministry, I have a bit more work to do on that. And to a degree, I have self-medicated historically when I was young by smoking. Great deal, which gave me that kind of little buzz I needed all the time. I now drink a great deal of caffeine, which keeps me keeps me with that little dopamine hit I need every now and then. Professionally, if you like, in terms of ministry now, it means that there are certain particular modes of functioning which suit me well in my team. So working in a team really helps. So recently we ran a messy church. I had two curates at the time, and so actually we could all play to our strengths. And so whilst I was noticing everything that was going on, people coming, going, actually some people leaving now, we need to move on to the next item, what have you. Other of my curates were using their creativity or their personal skills to, between us, be the whole package.
Talking about that, so as a society we seem to be sort of waking up to the idea that we're very, very different in the way that we perceive reality, and instead of categorizing autistic people as, you know, we used to say Asperger's, and you know, we used to just be like, oh, sorry, but you're not functioning the way you should do, kind of thing. We're now kind of waking up a bit, and places like the BBC or GCHQ are specifically employing people for dyslexia, for example, or for ASD. What do you think of the things that we're seeing? Because it seems to be now. You know, the word neurodiversity only came out in 1998 or something.
Yes.
So it seems it's actually recent that we're starting to talk about ourselves in these terms. What do you think of the broader cultural things that are happening that we might see?
Principally, I think we're learning to be kind to ourselves and to each other. And often the church isn't very good at that, I think. I've certainly gone through a masking process, if you like, through many different iterations of my life of presenting an interview what you're looking for, and then I work out how I can best fulfill what outcomes is being looked for. But it was also then really helpful to be able to go out in the parish magazine and say, maybe we didn't realise at the time we came here, but actually now we've worked out that we're neurodiverse, and it will help you to support us and be kind to us. If you understand that, this is my speciality, this is what I'm rubbish at, and that should be okay.
Have you come across any blockages, any issues with that, or has it all been roses?
All the feedback we've had has been very positive, partly from people saying, I also don't fit, but also people who coming forward and saying, my experience of life is not normal, not necessarily because of a neurodiversity, but that freed them up to be able to share with us, if you like, being the wounded healer, that actually one lady I was talking to who suffers from PTSD, and could open up about that because she felt like I was a safe person to talk to. So that was really powerful. Presumably there are people who felt less positive about this, and maybe there are a lot of people in the kind of older generation who feel like this is all a fact. And I'm pretty sure I know some older people who are neurodiverse, but they would never recognise it themselves. Partly because it was beaten out of them at school when they were young, and they can't admit to themselves, let alone anyone else, what's going on there.
What would you say to a member of clergy who was struggling with this?
I think generally say it's been a really positive thing for valuing myself and what I bring to the world the way God made me. I think it's really, self-awareness is just so vital. Life in general, and I talk to leavers from school about being self-aware and working out what God made you to be the best person God made you to be. So I think it's absolutely vital for us all to work out who we are, what we bring to this, and it really helps us be clear about what's a good fit and a bad fit for us professionally, if you like. And I know lots of clergy apply for umpteen positions in different churches, and why is that not a fit? I don't quite understand. I think it's really helpful to understand that. And I think one of the things that's highlighted to me is there's a real isolationist danger for clergy who work alone, not as part of a team, particularly running a number of churches where they're flitting around and not necessarily engaging at depth in any one place. It's especially the case for the neurodiverse, and for those suffering with mental health disorder, but actually for all of us, we need to be connecting. Even people who are less sociable, more introverted, it's still a key part of our mental health. To be connected at a profound level, not just with God, but actually with the people around us, and to share what we're working with other people. So I feel like we need to be moving towards a culture, a church culture, of team working and supporting other people. It isn't just clergy, obviously, lay people as well, which has been a really vital part of my thriving rather than going mad.
I'm really interested in when I read the Gospels, the thing that really sticks out to me, or has done recently, is this thing of Jesus keeps disappearing. he does this little bit, and then he gets in the boat, and no one, everyone's like, "Oh, can we come in the boat with you?" And he's rowing off, you know, or he disappears through the crowd, and it happens again and again and again. And you know, when I read the Gospels through a kind of neurodiversity lens, I'm not going to put any labels on Jesus, but you know, even Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, like they are wildly different to each other.
Yeah.
And what a brilliant thing to, you know, it's sort of always been part of my understanding is that you know, when we talk about one body, many parts, we forget that we're very different, and we're so quick to dishonour what we're made to be. When you are thinking from a theological point of view, what's the sort of standout thing?
The standout thing for me is ever since I was young, in particular when I was young, what would Jesus do was a thing, and people had bracelets with WWJD on, and that always kind of troubled me because I thought, I just feel like you haven't thought through what would Jesus do, because Jesus is profoundly challenging, countercultural, and you're not. And that's just kind of and in a sense, the question "what would Jesus do" is not necessarily such a helpful question, but because I think what would Jesus do? Well, he wouldn't be running a church, but he would be valuing diversity, and he would be saying, as a team, we run a church. And as a team, we bring it all together. And when I felt like I've not been performing as I should as a member of clergy, I think about what would Jesus do, and I think all the stuff I'm not doing should be. Jesus wouldn't be doing it either. You know, you don't read
That's
about.
That's really helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was really affirming to kind of realise that. And I think, well, actually, Jesus wouldn't have been. Well, he wasn't based in one place, visiting lots of people, having lots of cup of tea, and being very nice. And Jesus just wasn't nice. I was talking to a lovely lady at a wedding reception a while back, and she was saying, I just recently started reading the stories about Jesus and realised that Jesus wasn't the nice man I thought he was. And only then, having discovered more recently my neurodiversity, and suddenly think, right, well, if I want to do some research on this, I should do some Bible study. Right, where do we find neurodiversity in the Bible? Well, actually, everywhere. We find it all over. And partly I look back now at kind of the history of the church and as against Jesus' story, and I just think, how did they think this way of functioning was okay? That we had to make everyone be the same. Yeah. Everyone had to wear the same kind of suit and wear a hat or not wear a hat, and everyone had to be polite and doff their cap to the Lord. All of that just kind of, it blows my mind. It took us 2,000 years to work out what it meant to be like Jesus and the disciples. How dumb were we?
And it's written down.
Yeah, absolutely.
How's the model of church changing?
It feels like there is a beginning to be a hollowing out of the church, that the kind of Middle England, middle church way of doing things is slowly dying. And what we're going to be left with is charismatic churches that are exciting, and Anglo-Catholic churches with bringing mystery and wonder. And that is where people are finding God. And I've spent years feeling quite depressed, if you like, about the future of the church, and why is no one really wrestling with this and how we fix this problem. And to a degree we needed to let go and let God fix that problem. It seems that this is now coming. The future of the church is becoming clear, and my eldest daughter, who is just kind of old enough to be Generation Z or Gen Z, maybe we call it, I was talking to her recently about, why are you wanting to do RE as one of your options at GCSE rather than German, which you would excel at and would be much easier? And she said, but RE will make me a better person. And I thought, that tells me something profound about your generation, that that's increasingly normal, and more people of that age group are exploring faith, exploring meaning, what it means to be alive. And it really feels like there's something of a rejection of my generation's very down-to-earth science approach to life. We can explain everything. We don't need faith. We don't need spirituality. And actually what our generation has done has made life really boring. And Gen Z came through and said, actually, I'm searching for something more. I'm searching for meaning. What is life about? One of the things I'm involved with, actually, is deliverance ministry in the supernatural. gosh, the young people of today, they are desperate to hear about the supernatural. They're not, that just can't possibly happen. Just tell us about that, because that tells us something really exciting about what life means. Actually, there is more to life than meets the eye. It's not just about the everyday. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
As we were saying earlier, neurodiversity is a relatively recent discovery, and we're still working out quite what that means. I think it'd be really helpful for us to think through actually how can we, in the diversity of ministry in Diocese of Gloucester, work out between us what are the great strategies for ministry that people who are autistic or are dyslexic, or how can we function really well in the world of ministry? So not just kind of play to our strengths, but actually, how can I support my weaknesses? Not just in a team where we work together, which is really important, but actually might need to just learn some basic stuff of, if you're dyslexic and you are trying to write sermons or write this and the other, you need this bit of software, you need this hardware, and it's going to make your life so easier. Or you need to throw away your paper diary, or whatever it is. And I feel like we're playing catch up on that at the moment, and people are kind of trying to work it out for themselves. But other people have already worked this out, and we need to try and network better.
In your curiosity sort of phase, you felt it was very different than other, and you were surrounded by people who were going through the kind of regular way of doing it, and they seemed fine with it, whether I was masking or not. But that was obviously a very difficult thing. If you could say anything to yourself now, if you could time travel back, and what would you say to yourself going through that?
Great question. It feels like God created me for a purpose. And because I'm different from other people, that purpose is different. And it's no more or less important for that. And that for all of us in our diversity at college, actually we were all called to different paths. And it can feel like there's a real pressure, certainly then, to conform and to fulfill this, for me, this kind of monastic, high church, priestly role. Whereas actually, my calling is to something a little bit, some of that, but other stuff as well. And then actually to recognise there are other people like me called to do something similar. I'm not on my own. Felt like I was on my own at the start, and then slowly work out, well, actually you're a bit like me and you're a bit like me. I'm not the only weird one here.
About a year ago I started going to an ADHD group once a month.
Oh yeah.
And that's been really brilliant in the middle of Bristol, and when you go to it a couple of times, they sort of go, do you want to join our WhatsApp kind of thing, and you can mute it because it's just mayhem.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure it is.
But, but it's been brilliant. It's been really helpful for me to go, a lot of it's very relatable, which is really helpful just to see it.
Yeah.
And then some of the stuff I'm like, actually I don't struggle with that, and I'm very fortunate in that, and it's been helpful for me to sort of step back from and go, I'm really lucky in lots of ways, and to celebrate the good stuff, as well as recognising some of the stuff that I thought was just me, and I'm like, oh no, they struggle with that as well.
Yeah. If I'm having a bad day, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in the office and pretend to be. Actually, I can just have a bad day. It's okay. And I know that tomorrow or next week, I will then achieve a massive amount, and I'll be playing catch up. Yeah. And that will be quite stressful, but that's okay, because I'll cope and I'll come at the other end.
But that's part of resilience, isn't it? And in a role like yours, it's so important to have that resilient thing where you can go, it's all right to have a shocker, and that's all right.
Yeah, and I'm not going to feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just the way it is for me.
Yeah.
There are lots of jobs I could do if I had to, and I could do it for a few days if I had to, but actually it's not good for me to have to function these roles very long, partly because I can't do it for that long and things will begin to fall apart. In a really banal, stupid way, being asked to kind of be in the pantomime for the local group, I can say I'm well up for that, but I need to be remembering not many lines and not a huge amount of time in rehearsals, partly because I haven't got the time, but actually I'm rubbish at remembering lines. and it will drive me mad, and I will do badly at this. So I can just be really clear. I've worked this out now. Really clear. This is the way. This is what success looks like for me, and I can set myself up to succeed, and not pretend to myself I can do everything. Yeah,
Good. Cool. I think we're done.
it's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
What? Just talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. Good to get it out there.